Good evening, everyone. I'm Anushree Painuly, your host for this session. I'm an author, spiritual healer, and an actor. And welcome to this wonderful Tete-a-Tete session with Mr. Sabarna Roy. And for all of you who've just joined in this session, I want to tell you that just before this, we have had a wonderful digital storytelling session with Mr. Roy. And you can still watch it on, after this session, you can watch it on Pragati E's FB page, right? So now we move on with this session. Though Mr. Sabarna Roy, he needs no introduction, but still, I will take this privilege of introducing him to you. Mr. Sabarna Roy is a trained civil engineer and has graduated with a first-class honors civil engineering degree from Jadavpur University in 1988. He's presently working as Senior Vice President and is in the 26th year of his employment with Electro Steel Group. Mr. Sabarna Roy is an author of critically acclaimed best-selling literary fiction of 7 published books. They are Pentacles, Frosted Glass, Abyss, Winter Poems, Random Subterranean Mosaic, 2012-2018, Ettings of the First Quarter of 2020, and Fractured Mosaic. Mr. Sabarna Roy has 2 technical books to his name, titled Articles on Ductile Iron Pipelines and Framework Agreement Methodology and Technological Trends in Water Sector for a Sustainable Solution. And here goes the list of his achievements and awards. He has been awarded the Litroma Laureate Award in 2019, Litroma Star Achiever Award 2020. His book Random Subterranean Mosaic 2012-2018 won the Best Book of the Year 2019. The A-List Award for Excellence in Fiction by the News X Media House. Certificate for the Real Superheroes for Spreading a Spirit of Positivity and Hope during the COVID-19 pandemic from Forever Star India Award 2020. And certificate for participation in the Indo-Russian Friendship Celebration 2020. The Litroma Golden Star Award 2020, Lifetime Achievement, and the Certificate of Appreciation for featuring in the Hall of Fame Litroma International Symposium on Literature and Festival 2020, and the Times Eminent Writer of the Year Award by the Times of India Group in Kolkata in February 2021. Mr. Sabarna Roy is one of the winners of the Champions of Change 2020 award given out by Interactive Forum on Indian Economy, supported by Government of India. He is also one of the recipients of Economic Times Newsmakers 2021, Eastern Region. Top 10 Most Influential Business Leaders of 2021, given out by Business World and ANI in association with the Indian Alert. And Times Excellence Award 2021 in Indian Literature given out by the Times Group. And Professional Excellence Award in the Aqua Excellence Award 2021 given out by the Aqua Foundation. By the end of this year, Mr. Sabarna Roy is coming up with his 8th literary work, A Marriage, an Affair and a Friendship, and his 3rd technical book titled Emerging Environmental Technologies and Policies. Mr. Roy, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you here. And
thank you so much. Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction.
Just before we start with the questions, I would like to take a minute to thank My Secret Bookshelf. For all of you, My Secret Bookshelf has powered this session. My Secret Bookshelf is an online bookstore, and it has got a virtual club of its own. It promotes Indian authors. And right now it's giving 20% discount to all the Delhi Book Fair audience. Use the code DBF20, all caps, no space. It is valid till September end. And with that, we move to our first question. Mr. Roy, I would just like to ask that the best part about your writing is that it is not confined to a particular genre. It is, and I'm not talking about your different books. Even in one book, you talk about so many topics. You're talking about duality, you're talking about schizophrenia, work from home professionals, and God, motherland, so many things. though you call it a fiction, but there is a bag full of information that you give to your readers. So how much research goes into it?
Well, I think I prepare for a book meticulously after it has evolved within me. I mean, I'll give you an example. Like etchings of the first quarter of 2020 was based on uh, a day that I spent at Tata Literary Meet, which you know that is the second best literary meet after the Jaipur Literature Festival, where I was one of the panelists in which discussed the dark side of the mind. Now, I spent the whole day listening to various sessions and participated in one of the sessions in the evening, and it happens at the Victoria Memorial in Calcutta, Majestic Building. So we had a author's dinner at Taj Bengal in the evening, and while I was returning home, I was thinking how I would actually describe the entire day to my daughter. So I planned to write a book to tell her about what thoughts were going on in my mind while I was in the Tata Literary Festival and the dinner thereafter, and all the discussions that I have listened to and the kind of discussions that I have been a part of during the day. And only one thing that I cooked up was that we were discussing, I and my daughter were discussing this whole thing at the end of the day at the Park Hotel in a coffee shop. But that's not true. We were discussing at home. To that extent, it deviates from the truth, but otherwise, the entire thing is as it is, or as it happened on that specific day. And there are 20 sparkling poems in that book as well. In fact, my wife told me that I had forgotten to write poems, so I told her that I'll write a poem a day for 20 days at a stretch and send it to her. So those 20 poems were a part of the collection of that in that book, 20 Poems 2020. So after this book was written, the manuscript was ready. By that time, we had the first lockdown. And I thought that I should be doing something to, what I should say, I should be doing something to publish this book. Against the wishes of my publisher, let me tell you, because they said that this book will not sell during the pandemic. I had some leverage point with them because I have been publishing with them for quite a long time. So they said, agree to it. And the book became an instant bestseller by the time it was published. So in fact, etchings of the first quarter of 2020 in its subject is a bit fleeting. At various places, it discusses philosophies, it discusses philosophers, it discusses books, ideas, thoughts in the form of a story, kind of a novella. Then there are various narrative poems. So there are crisscrossing thoughts, but you must know behind all the mess and the chaos that the book presents, there is a pattern, there's a kind of research that goes into it. There's a planning. So if a reader reads the book thoroughly, at the end of the day, he or she would know that there is a motive behind the book, although the book otherwise looks a piece of chaos to start with. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm always fascinated by the idea that the human mind does not work linearly. It never works linearly. Because at one time we are thinking about food, the other moment we are thinking about sex, the next moment we are thinking about Coke, the next moment we are thinking about God. So, so if I said food, sex, Coke, God, so four are different things. So that is how the mind works. So why don't you write books in that manner? The manner in which the mind works. That is the chaotic manner in which the mind works. So I'm not always talking in the format of what James Joyce said, stream of consciousness. I'm not saying that really, but what I'm trying to say is that there could be a plethora of subjects which can be presented in a book, which can be kaleidoscopic in nature, which could be a fountainhead for various other chaoses happening within other minds of readers. So yeah, to come to your basic question once again, that I do some research, but I normally write on things that I know well. I don't write on things about which I do not know well. And I am a voracious reader. I have been a voracious reader all my life. I am always watching films and international TV series on OTT platforms. And I'm always listening to some kind of music or the other. At times I'm listening to rocks. At times I'm listening to Western classical. At times I'm listening to Hindustani classical. So I am interested in everything in life, all kinds of arts and culture. Before the COVID, I was also very actively involved with theater. And in fact, I used to visit theaters and watch plays. And of course, reading plays is a passion with me. But after the COVID happened, we couldn't watch plays much. In fact, I have traveled to Delhi, I've traveled to Europe, I've traveled to Bombay to be part of various kinds of theater festivals, even to Bangalore for various theater festivals. So I'm always within the part of the gamut of arts and culture. So I'm a student of arts and culture, although I'm qualified as a civil engineer. But I always think I'm a student of arts and culture. So uh, research, whatever I live in an alternative world always, because I am inside a book or inside a symphony or inside a play or inside a movie or inside an international TV series all the moment in my life.
Beautifully said, Mr. Roy. And I can't agree more. Yes, our mind thinks random things. It doesn't think like a topic. So yes, why restrain? Why not write the way we feel? Why not write the way it flows? And with that, we move to our next question. Mr. Roy, from a civil engineer writing his first book to a renowned author, celebrated author, after your seventh book, with your fans looking up to you, having expectations, with the literary world looking up to you, how have you evolved as a writer from your first book to your seventh one, very soon to be eighth?
Yeah, I must tell you frankly that I'm always experimenting with formats, genres, and subjects. In fact, the book that I'm writing now, A Marriage, an Affair, and a Friendship, it's a book that I had already written. Then I rewrote the entire thing because I thought the length of the book was very big. So I wanted to make it precise, because you must understand in today's times, attention spans of people are going down. So we have to write big things in a more concise and precise manner to be able to attract the attention of people. Even in this book, I'm experimenting with some chapters are written in the form of a play, sometimes chapters are written in third person, some chapters are written in first person, and some chapters are written in the format of a scenario, that is a screenplay, so that a person who goes into the experience of reading the book has a 360-degree experience of all the characters and the incidents that are happening, taking place. I would, I have, you actually asked the question, how much I have evolved. I must tell you that I have learned a lot because I have worked with some of the best editors in the trade, and I have learned a lot about the grammar of writing, the how to write well. In fact, when I started writing, I was a very crude writer, I must say. I was not able to put down my emotions very precisely. I used to write very long sentences. My paragraphing was not that too good. At times, I did not use the appropriate words. And the editors that I worked with turned out to be fantastic, and I've learned a lot from them, because you see, at the end of the day, it is very significant to be lucid, comprehensible. It is very important to be able to attract the attention of the reader, hold on to the attention of the reader, and be authentic, true to what you are thinking. So that is what I've learned today, I think, somewhat. Yeah, if even if it is 20, 25% or 30%, if I've learned the trade, uh, the entire thanks goes to my editors. In fact, my 8th book I'm going to dedicate to one of the best editors I have worked with, Sita Bhaskar. As I say, Sita, you are a friend in need and an editor indeed. So I'm going to dedicate the book to an editor with whom I have worked on the last 3 of my books.
Wow, wow, that's just amazing. And like I said in the last session, your humbleness is what makes you who you are. And this is just so amazing. And very truly said that the attention span of people nowadays is very short. They just read it, they see it, and they forget it. So that is it. And with that, we move to our third question. Mr. Roy, you have got the experience of life. You have the grace of life's experience. You have seen so much, and I would like you to give an advice, if you could give an advice to the youth of today, because you are someone who has lived his responsibilities fully, and apart from that, you have even lived your dreams. And many people these days, they believe, no, these are two contrary things, they can't go hand in hand. So I think you are the right person to share an advice on that.
Yeah, Anushree, I'll tell you, I, as a person, I'm not very inclined to give advice to people, because, people just don't listen to anybody's advice. That's the simple thing. But yet, I would give one advice to aspiring authors, writers, poets out there, that, one of the things that we must all learn as professionals is that we are able to polish our craft more and more the more we do our work. Now, in case of writing, doing more work is writing more and more. Now, how do you write more and more? Now, when your imagination and innovation fails, what comes in handy is what you do daily basis. You interact with your parents, you interact with your spouse, you interact with your children, you interact with your maids, you interact with your drivers, you interact with your cooks, servants, and there is a story to be written about this. So maintain a journal. Now there is weather. Every day the weather is changing. So write down the weather chart of every day. Now every day you are doing, every day is seized by some event or the other. Sometimes Afghanistan is happening, sometimes COVID is happening, sometimes something else is happening. So write down about those things. So what I'm trying to say is journaling and diary writing are very significant to a writer's life. The more you write a diary, actually you are creating a story for yourself. If you write half a page every day. In a year, you write 180 pages, and tell me how many books are 180 pages thick. So you have written 180 pages. So even if you rule out 50% of 180 pages, you have a 90-page book. 90-page book in the format of how a mind operates for 365 days in a year. So it's a year's journal. It could be a diary of a good year, or it could be titled Diary of a Bad Year. In fact, James Coetzee, the Nobel Prize winning author from South Africa who teaches in Australia now, is he has written a book which is which is titled as Diary of a Bad Year, in which a diary and half of the book is the diary and half of the book is a story, a novella which is running. So it's a very experimental format. So what I'm trying to say is you can do anything if you want to think out of the box. I think diary writing and journaling are the best things to try your hands at. Please do it, all budding authors, poets, and writers out there.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a great piece of advice. And I think it's definitely going to help people. Mr. Roy, and my next question is that you write about Kolkata, you write about the city of joy. So is Kolkata just Kolkata, or is Kolkata symbolic of everything that's happening in the world? So what is it?
Well, there are three cities in the world about which I know very well. One is Kolkata, the second one is London, and the third one is Istanbul in Turkey. So these three cities I know very well because of in Kolkata, of course, I have lived now uninterruptedly 39 years of my life. Of course, I'm not 39 years old. I'm actually 54 years old. So uninterruptedly means I was brought up elsewhere in Ludhiana, in Punjab. So 39 years I have been in Kolkata, and I love this city. I just love this city. In spite of all the bad things and the bad mouthing people do about this city, I love this city. London, I love. London is a place where my son stays. I love that city, and I have read a lot of authors from the UK. I have seen a lot of movies from the UK. So I know the city of London like the back of my hand. And my God, Istanbul, let me tell you, the first time I landed in Istanbul, my family was shocked to know this, that I know about the city more than the taxi drivers. So it's because of the reading that I have had about Istanbuli writers and kind of Istanbuli movies that I have seen in my life. So Calcutta, yes, and I'm a Bengali at heart, although I write in English. I'm a Bengali at heart. So, I love Bengali food. I love, of course, I love Bengali women. There are a lot of feminists out there who could actually accuse me of taking the name of woman after food. We could do it the other way around. But I love Bengali woman, Bengali food, and I love everything to do with Calcutta, Bengali sweets. Although I'm diabetic, I should not be having sweets. So the larger point I'm trying to say is that I understand the upper class Bengali milieu more than I know of anything else, because of which I write all my stories mostly set in Kolkata and in Bengali families. I don't know whether someday I'll write a story about. I can't write a story about a Turk living in Istanbul because I would not know. Although I know the city like the back of my hand, but I would not really. I don't feel like a Turk. I don't feel like a Britisher living in London, although I know the city very well. So the larger point I'm trying to drive at is, yes, Kolkata is a city I love. Yes, I'm Bengali at heart. I may write in English. That's not the point. Point is, I don't want my hero to be named Srivastava or Saxena. I want it to be some kind of a Roy, Chatterjee, Banerjee, or whatever, you know. So I think I have answered your question.
Yes, yes. And indeed, Kolkata is a beautiful city. And I myself have a connection. I love the city. And I believe everyone who hasn't visited it, please visit. And otherwise, you would miss something. So that is it. Kolkata is some place you need to feel. You need to feel it. So, and that very well reflects in your writing. And you, even in your the digital story that we were just seeing before this, there you had a line where the son says, are you more affected by the writers you read? And Mr. Roy, you you read a lot. Tell us about your favorite writers.
Well, my favorite writers mostly are, I mean, I would say, to start with, I would say Tolstoy has been a great influence in my life, mostly Anna Karenina, which I think is the greatest novel ever written. War and Peace is treated to be a novel, but it's more of a philosophical discourse and historical writing than a novel. But yes, Anna Karenina is a pure novel. Uh, After that, Chekhov for short stories and plays. These Russian masters have influenced me deeply. And before that, of course, Fyodor Dostoevsky, uh, Pushkin, the poet Eugene Onegin, based on which Vikram Seth wrote his Golden Gate, and of course, Nikolai Gogol. These Russian masters of the 19th century have flooded me with a lot of intense emotions. Thereafter, I have been deeply affected by the Franco-Algerian author Albert Camus, who has reinterpreted Nietzsche, the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, after Diderot and I'm forgetting another person named. What I'm trying to say is, yeah, Albert Camus has deeply affected me. Robi Thakur from my own land has affected me very deeply, because my first memory of reading a book is at the age of 7. I read Dabkhor, the Postman, at the age of 7, and the theater version I had seen with my father in Calcutta at the age of 3.5, which I remember very well, very deeply. It's so deeply etched in my memory. Nothing to do with my memory. It's because of the beautiful rendition of the play and the intensity of the play itself. Among poets, of course, Osip Mandelstam, T.S. Eliot, Pablo Neruda, there have been great influences. Robi Thakur has been a great influence, mostly for his prose and not for his lyrics and Robindra Songit and his poems, because I love his poetry written between 1927 and 1940 until his death more than his earlier poetry. And of course, there have been many other authors like Orhan Pamuk, Milan Kundera, J.M. Coetzee, Salman Rushdie, Marquez, many other Latin American writers and African writers. So I keep on reading. So they are all my favorite authors. And among plays, let me tell you, I have been reading plays from the plays written from the ages of the 460 BC. That is Sophocles, the great German tragedist. Sophocles, till the modern playwrights like Harold Pinter, who got the Nobel Prize recently. And of course, in India, I read a lot of Mahesh Dattani. I deeply love Mahesh Dattani's plays, although he sometimes plagiarizes a bit, like his play Tara was plagiarized from Glass Menagerie by Tennessee Williams. Tennessee Williams is a great American playwright. Paul Auster, Jack Kerouac. So, I mean, I have read all the modern masters. I've read all the Russian masters. I've read the German philosophers also. So they have deeply impacted me. Yeah. And I have also read Bengali literature until I would say the end of the beginning of the millennium. Yeah. Last 15 years, I have not read any Bengali literature.
Amazing, amazing, totally amazing. And just by listening to you, someone who has not read these authors can really feel like reading them. And
Of course.
I think there are questions flowing because Skena is messaging me certain things. So I'll just check by the time. I really want you to tell our viewers what next with so many awards. You already have even a national award. Mr. Roy, what next challenge? What next challenge do you have for yourself?
You see, awards cannot be a challenge. What challenge is if you can actually enter into the mind of an author, mind of a reader, because you must understand one thing, that what challenges you is, you see, the best thing that actually pleases you is an email or a WhatsApp from a reader who tells you that, you know, this is something which I liked, or this is something which reminded of me of so and so happening or an incident in my life. So I think that kind of thing warms me up more than an award. Award, yes, you know, it does feel good, you know. It does give you some kind of a pedestal to be seen and be read by more people, because I was a very private and a shy person, and more so an inconfident author to start with. The first 8 years, I was very inconfident, and then I became public, and now I would say that I'm gaining some kind of confidence. And if my eighth work, inshallah, does well, I think I'll be more confident. Yeah. Yes. Any other question?
Hello, Mr. Roy.
Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, so there is a common question among your readers that what are you going to write next?
No, I am already, as I have said, that I am writing. You see, I'm basically on the finishing stage of my eighth book, which is titled A Marriage, an Affair, and a Friendship. The title actually looks very alluring. I don't know whether I'll be able to spice it up as much as the title sounds, but it will be a spicy novella, but it will be not a very big novel, but kind of a novella which will hold the attention span of the modern readers, modern day readers. Because, you know, I mean, when I started with, you know, I felt that most of my readers would be aged, very senior kind of people. But today, when I see youngsters reading my books, somehow you know, it makes me feel so good. You know, my children don't read my books, but the youngsters read so much of my books that I feel very good about it. You know, I really feel very good about it. So this is what will be published in November 2021. I think I am also coming up with a technical book about which I don't think in this session people will be much interested. Technical books are more studied in workplaces and other places. So I'm coming up with a third technical book. I have not thought about anything after this eighth book. I don't know what I will do after that. I have to plan something.
I had just gone to check the messages that are flowing for you, and we have a question. Ms. Sabarna, sir, your books carry a certain rawness of human being. What inspired you to bring that out in your writing?
Well, you know, I want to just show human emotions, incidents, and characters as they are. I just throw light on the human characters. I throw light on the incidents of the drama that is happening out there, and I just copy from the enlightened portions of each character and incident, and that is how I write. So, I mean, if you feel that, if you are appreciating my rawness, that's good. That is how I write. Yeah.
And there's one more question for you. Sanjana says that Abyss is a wonderful thriller. So what inspiration for such an unpredictable thriller?
Well, I must tell you, Abyss was written actually to document the change of political power in the state of West Bengal. And subsequently, it ended up becoming a thriller. I wanted to write a screenplay to make it into a movie. But then while I was writing, I didn't want it to be I found that I don't have the capacity to write a screenplay. So I converted into a play. But I must tell you, interestingly, that Abyss is a story which I first narrated it to my wife on phone. And I asked her, tell me who is the murderer. And she said it correctly. So we have a Sherlock Holmes at our home.
Okay, that's amazing. And anyone who follows Mr. Roy, he can easily see that how much he values his family. I've even seen a photograph you addressing your wife as Madhurga, and that is so beautiful.
Well. You remind me of that photograph. My wife as Madhurga, my wife and I, we had gone to a restaurant, and that was during the Durga Pujas, and I just clicked a picture of hers, and I'm an atheist, So then I thought that for me, Madhurga would be my wife, of course, and if I tell her that she is Madhurga, I would be the Lord Shiva. And I'm a kind of Lord Shiva, of course, but Shiva had all the vices in him except for woman. He was a very loyal guy. I don't know about myself.
And that's beautiful, Mr. Roy. I seriously feel that people actually connect to your writing because you are so honest with everything you write. And like you said, you are a natural writer. And one thing I want to know, it was like you mentioned, you were a civil engineer, and it was after 19 years you picked up your pen to write your first book. So what was the feeling at that time? What was the feeling? Because you have been writing in your childhood, you have always been writing, but as a professional.
Yeah, I have been writing. And in fact, between 2002 and 2005, I was an oral storyteller among my friends and colleagues and various other people, And then a girlfriend of mine, a beautiful one, advised me that Sabarna, you shouldn't be spending so much of time in telling stories to people who forget after a peg of whiskey. So what you do is you write down what you want to write. So I started writing, and I was so much pregnant with ideas and stories and narrations by the summer of 2007 that I thought that if I did not write, I will die. I'm living for the last 15 years with all my stories. You are mute. Anushree, you are mute.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Actually, the battery of my phone is draining for the continuous 2 sessions, and that's why I've just put it on charging. So, okay. Yes, Mr. Roy, you say that art plays an important role in your life, a very important role in your life. So, though you are a civil engineer, you are an artist at heart. So, please tell us more about it. You've already told us about plays things.
No, I'll tell you something about now civil engineering, something very artistic about civil engineering. You see, whenever you go to visit a place, Anushree, you think of visiting Rome. Why so? Because you want to go to Pisa. Why so? Because you want to visit the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, all the greatest of the civil engineers and the structural engineers have worked. All right. When you want to go to Taj Mahal, in Agra, why do you want to visit Taj Mahal? It's because of the architects and the civil engineers who have worked there.
Yeah.
Why do you want to visit Beijing? Because you want to visit the Great Wall of China, because Great Wall of China is a work of the greatest form of civil engineering work, art. Today, people go to Dubai to visit Burj Khalifa. Let me tell you, Burj Khalifa is a work of civil engineering art, modern, postmodern civil engineering art. People go to Malaysia to visit Kuala Lumpur. In Kuala Lumpur, you've got the Petronas Twin Towers. Once again, a civil engineering postmodern art. You must understand that civil engineering, the oldest branch of engineering, deals with the most indeterminate things in nature: air, wind, earthquake, soil, water, environment. So it deals with all the ambiguities and the amphibious nature of nature, because of which civil engineers are very crazy people. You have a civil engineer in Osama bin Laden, or you have a civil engineer in the form of me, you know? So the people are like that. Civil engineers are very crazy.
You totally changed my perspective. I had never thought of it that way. I had never thought of it that way. And
Anushree ji, if you have not thought of it that way, think from today. Civil engineering is
yes,
the oldest form of engineering, and it deals with the most indisciplined parts of the universal nature. So a civil engineer thinks in a different way, And civil engineering is at the core of every beautiful thing in this world. The entire tourism industry runs on civil engineering, let me tell you.
That's totally amazing. And I just want to quickly read a few of the comments for you. And these are the ones from the last session. Because I really want your fans to connect with you. So Mr. Asif Hussain says, "Sir, this is outstanding. You just made my day with your fabulous presentation. You gave a new life to these stories." PH says, "This is a wonderful story." And Shwetaksh says, "It was just mesmerizing." And for all of you, again, I'll say, who missed this session, please go on Pragati E's FB page and do watch it there. And now coming back to our question and answer session, Mr. Roy, tell us about your, I don't want this session to end. This is going so interesting. Tell us more about your travels and how they inspire your writing,
Well, you know, I must tell you that one of the beautiful things that uh, youngsters can try is find out photo albums in their family almiras and various kinds of wardrobes and from their parents. And the photo albums, they could use a lens to watch the photo albums, because, you know, in photo albums, a lot of mysteries you can look at. I mean, if you watch a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old photograph, a lot of things are seeping beyond the photograph. You could be actually finding, you might end up finding a man looking at a woman who is somebody else's wife, or a woman looking at a man who is somebody else's husband, and you might end up looking at many indecent acts which have been caught unaware. So what I'm trying to say is that photographs and albums present to you, you see, in the age of mobile clicks and cell shots, what is lost today is the mystery of a lot of staticity, the archival nature of photographs. Even the people, you see, nowadays people don't have a habit of looking at digital prints of what I should say, the digital prints of beautiful artwork. Like, you see, I can't buy a Picasso. I don't have so much of money to buy an original Picasso or Salvador Dali. But what I could do is I could look at a digital print of a Picasso or a Salvador Dali. Although with my family, I visited the Dali Museum in Paris. It's beautiful, but yeah, but once again, in a museum, you can't see every work of art very carefully for over half a day or full day. What I'm trying to say is digital print. Youngsters should make a habit of looking at photographs, albums very carefully, and also digital prints of artwork. And also not only books from the archival, books also, you must also keep, not only read a new book smells differently from an old book. All right. So an old book out of an almirah is ancient. It smells of history. A new book smells of the disinfected in the bookshop. All right. So we must understand that everything comes with, so observation is key to engineering, observation is key to art. So youngsters must try and practice this. So I think this is another piece of advice that youngsters must look at.
Yes, it is. It definitely is. And your words, they reflect passion for life, passion for living. And that's why it reflects in your book. It just reflects in your books. And though it's such an interesting session, and I don't want it to end, but every good thing has to come to an end, and we are just running out of time. So I'll quickly tell everyone that if you want to know more about Mr. Sabarna Roy and his books, then do visit his website. It's www.sabarnaroy.com. You can even subscribe to his YouTube channel, which goes by the name of Author Sabarna Roy. If you are interested in joining virtual book club and in getting good deals in books, then do visit Instagram page of My Secret Bookshelf. It goes by the same name, My Secret Bookshelf. And you can visit their website, www.mysecretbookshelf.co.in. If you want to connect with me and know more about my book, Sunrise Beyond the Dead End, then connect with me on my FB page, author Anushree Painuly, or join me on Instagram. I go by the name of Anushree. AN_U_Shree. And with that, Sabarna sir, thanks a lot for coming here and for this great chat. I'm sure many people would have learned a lot from it. And it was great talking to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm going to pre-book your 8th book.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks all my fans. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the listeners. Thanks everybody. Thanks My Secret Bookshelf. Thanks the organizers of Delhi Book Fair. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Over to you, Pragati team.